Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. Welcome to our book club episode for December. This month we have been getting in the festive spirit with It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, the debut novel from Hayley Dunlop. Hayley is a UK-based author and copywriter who has previously worked and written for The Guardian. Hayley describes herself as a huge fan of Hallmark and Hallmark-adjacent Christmas movies, and she hosts an annual watch-along of said Christmas movies over on her Instagram, which I'll link in the show notes along with her book. Her debut novel, Is Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, was published by Hera in August, with a second standalone festive rom-com looking to land next year. It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas tells the story of Mally Alistair, a woman who, just like Hayley, is obsessed with Hallmark Christmas films. When her best friend sends her back to their small hometown for a writing assignment, Mally finds herself encountering all those festive tropes in ways she never expected. This is a gorgeous, cosy and life-affirming novel that explores grief, female friendship and complex families, all against the backdrop of Christmas. Here to chat all about it, welcome Hayley to A Pair of Bookends.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Anna.
Thank you so much for coming on. I have already told you that I am very much a Christmas elf, so I was delighted when we've been able to book this in, and I've been able to read your wonderful, very Christmassy book, which is always nice at the start of December when you're at the point where you're frantically going, I've not done all the Christmas shopping, I need to get it sorted. It was very nice to get into your bed at night with a little cup of tea and just settle into a cozy Christmas book where, yes, there are lots of chaotic events going on, but also, there's lots of festive feel good in there as well. So thank you.
My pleasure. My intention with this book was to just make it the most Christmassy book that ever Christmased. So
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And we're hearing our Christmas attire.
Yeah, just rising up slightly. So
love this.
Yeah.
And I've got my Love Actually jumper on, which is my favourite Christmas
respect.
film. So
Yeah.
before we dive into you and your book, I do like to start by asking what you're currently reading. So could you tell us?
Yeah, I'm actually reading an amazing book, which is In Love with Love by Ella Risbridger.
I've heard so many good things about this.
Oh my goodness. It is so, I mean, her writing anyway is just
It's
so,
beautiful,
it's
isn't
like a
it?
blanket.
Yeah.
Whatever she writes about, it just kind of it's just like a balm for my brain, regardless of the subject. So when it was announced that she was doing this non-fiction exploration of romantic fiction, I was just so excited because A, Ella Risbridger writing tick, B, romantic fiction tick, which is one of my hyper fixations, I would say. And yeah, it is absolutely doing as much comforting to my brain as I was hoping it would. It's just such a kind of lovely exploration of the genre and why it's maybe sort of slightly underappreciated maybe in the literary world. So yeah, I would highly recommend it.
It definitely is, isn't it? I really can't wait to get to this book. I read an essay collection. It's like a series that Dunlop Books do, or Dunlop Publishing, called. It's set in various places, and then writers contribute their feelings around said setting or feeling or whatever. And this one was in the kitchen, and her essay in that is just one of my absolute favourites. And she talked about falling in love in the kitchen and how the best people can be found in the kitchen at parties. And
yeah, she's got this amazing recipe. Yeah, she's got this amazing recipe book, but it's just so much more than a recipe book. It's like a memoir, basically.
Midnight Chicken.
Recipes. Yeah.
So good.
It's just amazing. Yeah, I love it. And oh my goodness, the cookies in there, Paris cookies.
I haven't tried those.
The best cookies. Yeah, she kind of rebranded them as lockdown cookies back in lockdown. The secret ingredient is just so much sugar. But they are incredible. Best
I am
ever.
such a cookie fiend. I can't believe I've not come across this. I did the sausage pasta and loved that, and it's got a gallon of red wine in. But the cookies I definitely need to get to.
Yeah.
But we need to get into you and your book. Now I believe you wrote it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas during COVID and, the lockdowns. What
Mm.
was that experience like for you?
Totally unexpected because I'd never intended to write a rom-com. I
Really?
no, I no, I really enjoyed like I've always enjoyed like romantic films, and obviously cheesy Christmas movies are kind of like my happy place, especially during COVID when everything was so bleak and I just needed like the most simple stories imaginable to kind of just soothe my brain at the end of a long and stressful day with two
Hmm.
young children at home. So they were kind of giving me just so much comfort, but I'd never really picked up romantic fiction in book form
Oh, wow.
before. So yeah, it all kind of like sort of came to a head in 2020 when I joined this co-writing group online. And at the time I was like writing loads of like really serious essays, and I was spending a lot of time writing to my MP about like all of the things going on with the pandemic. And
Hmm.
I was doing like a lot of journaling as well around like the experience of parenting during lockdowns. And then one day I just decided to just start writing something completely different because I just wanted to write something that was fun. And I had this idea for this story where like a maybe more unconventional woman goes back to her hometown, and she's like actively trying to experience a Christmas movie,
Hmm.
and just how like ridiculous and absurd that would be, and how many like sort of funny things would happen and how awkward it would be. And I just really loved the idea. I just thought it was really silly and funny. And I think didn't realize at the time, but that sort of silliness was just completely lacking from my life when I sat down to start writing this story. And as soon as like the words started coming out and I started kind of, these characters appeared and started telling me their stories, it was just this kind of like refuge essentially from real life writing this story. It brought me so much comfort, so much joy, very cathartic experience sitting down to write this. And yeah, it accidentally, very accidentally became a rom-com. That wasn't the
Oh my
intention when I started
God.
writing it. It was just meant to be, it was almost meant to like, subvert the genre or
Hmm.
do something kind of different. But the more I wrote it, the more I realized that these characters really want, and not only that, they deserve a happy ending. So yeah, it's taken 5 years to get the book out in the world, and it's been through so many kind of iterations and rewrites in that period. But I'm so happy with the place it's ended up because it is, hopefully you'll agree, just like a very cozy, comforting story. And that was exactly the experience of writing it as well. So if I can share that experience with readers, that is just my dream come true.
I mean, you were describing Ella Risbridger as being, like a blanket, a cozy blanket, and that's exactly what this book felt like to me. It's just what I needed.
Oh,
I've I've experienced burnout this year more times than I care
yeah.
to count, and it is just what I needed. I find this time of year, whilst it's such a strange sort of crossover that I have with my personality, because I love Christmas.
Mhm.
And I love getting to spend time with family and friends and getting to do all the Christmassy things and watch Christmas things and Christmas food and, all that kind of stuff. But I also find it incredibly stressful.
The
It's
way
such a
that I
strange
describe
crossover,
it,
isn't it?
yeah, the way I describe it is like I love Christmas to happen to me, but I don't love making Christmas happen.
Yes.
And so when like especially like from my perspective, I've got two young children who obviously like want the magical Christmas experience, and apparently it comes down to me as the adult to make that happen. So yeah, that's why I think there's so much kind of like nostalgia and looking back in the story, because remembering the sort of Christmases of my childhood when obviously there was an invisible mother like making all of this stuff happen for me. That's where those kind of like the most tingliest Christmas feelings, I think, exist, don't they, kind of in the past.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to kind of explore whether or not it was possible to kind of rediscover that feeling
Hmm.
as an adult who'd maybe like been through the ringer and had responsibilities and maybe like lost touch with the place that they once called home. So yeah, I love Christmas too, but it is also a very, very stressful time.
Yeah, it is. And, it's all that wrapping up your work for the year and all that kind of stuff. It just feels, yeah, quite intense. But we will be talking a lot about the joy of Christmas alongside that because, this book really is a joy to read. And I'd like to start by talking about Mally, your
Mhm.
protagonist, who you've described as quite unconventional. She's a very quirky character, I think that's safe to say. She loves her Christmas films, but she specifically loves, the Hallmark Christmas films, the Christmas films that you might find on like Channel 5 or like the lesser watched channels. Very much the Christmas films that I used to love cozying up next to my nan watching
Yeah,
and being like, how have you
exactly.
found this film? But
Yeah.
falling in love with it. So, yeah, would you tell us a little bit about how Mally came to be and, yeah, sort of the inspiration behind her?
Yeah, I mean, there is like obviously a lot of myself in Mali, but when I was writing her, I kept thinking about these Hallmark Christmas movies. And there's usually some high-flying career woman. She's very glossy, she's very successful, very attractive, like conventionally attractive. And quite often in these films, she's usually got this kind of like kooky best friend.
Yeah.
And the kooky best friend, like, isn't as attractive. She's maybe a bit kind of like clumsy or like quite anxious. She's kind of like the one who maybe does all the actual work while
Hmm.
the best friend swans off to have her adventures. I wanted to shine a spotlight on that kooky best friend and kind of like swap those roles around a bit and kind of like imagine, well, what if it was that sort of less conventionally attractive
Hmm.
woman who goes off to have her own adventure.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the story, Mally is this, she's very nice, very pleasant, people pleasing person. She maybe doesn't have like as much agency as she probably should have. Her best friend Elle is like quite a dominating character. And yeah, in a Hallmark Christmas movie, Elle would undoubtedly be the protagonist. But yeah, she gets an opportunity to sort of essentially come out of her comfort zone and go back to the hometown that she's not been back to for 20 years because of something quite sad that happened to her family in the past.
Hmm.
And she kind of takes the decision to go, and she's like brave, and she does this thing that she's absolutely terrified to do. But it's the 20th anniversary of the event that happened in her family in the past. She's not been back there since, and she just wants to see whether there's kind of like any happy memories left there for her at
Hmm.
all. So she kind of like takes the plunge and goes back. But yeah, writing her was just a joy because she's kind of like plodded along in her life, I would say, for
Hmm.
2 decades. She's just kind of followed her best friend. She's been to university with her best friend. She's moved to London with her best friend. She lived with her best friend. And yeah, she just hasn't really ever sort of taken the bull by the horns and made decisions for
Yeah.
herself up until this point. And yeah, I love writing more unconventional protagonists. And, Mally is like very nerdy,
Yeah.
very um, focused on other people, making other people happy
Yeah.
rather than herself. And I just wanted to give people like that a happy ending for once.
It was really refreshing to read because she does you're so right, in a lot of those Christmas films it is this like high flying career woman that's like the romantic lead that's like,
Mhm.
incredibly, you know, by Hollywood or society's standards, very conventionally attractive. And it was just really refreshing to read somebody that kind of didn't see themselves as that kind of like she would have never put herself as the lead in a rom-com, would she, if she had the
No,
choice? And
absolutely not.
she doesn't kind of concern herself with promotions and pay rises, like you said, she does follow where her best friend Elle leads, and she's kind of, I don't want to say content with that, but I guess she sort of is in a way, she goes to work, she comes home, she watches her Christmas films, and like she's quite happy with that kind of
Yeah.
cozy little life. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that.
No, no. I think quite early on in the story, she's very wedded to this routine, exactly
Hmm.
like you say. She goes to work, she goes home, she gets a bowl of cereal on the go, she
I
sits
love
down,
the bowl of cereal.
she wants a meal. Yeah. I just had to put as many breakfast cereals on the story as possible because, like, yeah, obsessed. So, but then, yeah, something happens. You know, she's been part of her routine is that she kind of like sends an email every day.
Yes.
And then there's like a hitch, there's a technical hitch, which means she can no longer send those emails. And because that is such a core part of her routine every day,
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of like causes the rest of the routine to essentially unravel.
Mm-hmm.
And so when then she gets the opportunity to go back to her hometown, I think had that unraveling not already started, she probably wouldn't have gone. But she, yeah, it's kind of like the trigger really for her to sort of start thinking about whether or not the routine and the life she has built for herself, which is very safe and very
Yeah.
predictable, whether or not it's actually the right one for her. So yeah, it was such a kind of like special experience writing her going back to her hometown. Again, the hometown that she goes back to is this kind of like regular British suburb. It's
Yes.
not this kind of like picture perfect Cotswolds village or anything like that. It's essentially like a load of housing estates that overlap with like a Lidl on the high street and a big Tesco off the ring road. Very much the kind of place I grew up in the suburbs of Bristol. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of write a love letter to places like that again,
Yes.
because those aren't the kind of places that we would normally encounter in like a Christmas movie or a Christmas rom-com. They usually go back to their like hometown, which is called something like
Mm.
Snowy Evergreen or something like that,
Yeah.
and everything is like twinkling and perfect, and you know everyone's wearing red and green and just carrying presents around everywhere. um, but you know that's not what real life is like, and I
No.
really wanted to kind of like transport the very formulaic plot of a Hallmark movie into a very British reality and
Yes.
just kind of like let chaos ensue.
And it does as well.
It
It
really
does.
does.
I mean, you've just mentioned there the setting of this book is Scarnbrook, which is not a real place.
Mhm.
You know, it's very much a fictional small town that you've created. But you can definitely envision this place, and I think it's made all the more sort of I don't know if visceral is the right word, but you know, it's a very immersive read in the sense that you populate it with all these other quirky characters. Could you tell us a little bit about those people that we get to meet? I don't know if we should get on to the maybe love interest yet, but certainly, you know, the people at the pub, the mechanic,
Yeah.
all those kind of side characters that we all know and love.
Yeah. So, I mean, my experience of growing up somewhere like Scarnbrook was that I used to go back like once a year essentially for Christmas and reconnect with all the people I went to school with
Mhm.
and, you know, go to that local pub where everybody gathered on Christmas Eve. But I just was wondering, you know, if you haven't been back to a place for
Mhm.
20 years and you've like essentially lost touch with everybody there,
Yeah.
how would that actually look? Sort of going back to somewhere like this where it is a very small place and the chances are you are going to bump into people that you went to school with or that you used to know, and very quickly she does bump into people and she starts to kind of see these people who maybe she kind of like dismissed
Mm.
whilst kind of like growing up and having left Scarnbrook as just kind of being people of the past. She starts to see them all in like a new light and
Yeah.
starts to reconnect with these people, some of whom used to actually be her friends like when she was at primary school, and you know she just grew apart from people as you do. And yeah, she meets like a cast of characters who still live in Scarnbrook, who are running the local pub, or like
Mhm.
you say, are a mechanic. She does have like a mishap with her car, which was like an absolute must because that is often the way that meet cutes happen in
Yeah.
cheesy Christmas movies. So I was very excited to write that. And yeah, she starts to just reconnect with the place as well as
Mhm.
the people, and wondering whether or not she can see this place as her home again. But there are obviously things that don't work out perfectly. She's
Mhm.
staying in like this Airbnb, which is an absolute like dump. It's just like this really cold, bleachy smelling rental that
Yeah.
her best friend has booked for her. And again, I wanted to kind of subvert that trope you see in Christmas movies, like in The Holiday, for example,
Yeah.
when Cameron Diaz goes to the amazing cottage and it's just like the most perfect place. But that's not what happens in real life. So I
No.
wanted to kind of like really place her in this kind of quite, I wouldn't say harsh reality, but quite a grey
Yeah.
reality. You know, this isn't a picture perfect small town. This is kind
Mm.
of like a very grey, drizzly British suburb.
Yeah.
And I wanted to explore whether or not it's possible to kind of like have a happy ending without the picture perfect white Christmas.
I mean, definitely. I love that you mentioned the holiday cottage as well, because now all I'm thinking about is I really want to be there right now. I think every
Yeah,
year we all have that thought of that is like the dream place to
that
spend
is the
your Christmas
optimum.
period. It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
is. I really want to ask about Mally's family because she is from quite a complicated family. They have become quite distant from each other. As you mentioned earlier, you know, there was an event that happened that sort of ruptured this family as they knew it, and you know they've not been the same since, and they don't really talk about it. Could you tell us about creating this family and how grief came to be such an important theme in the story?
Yeah, so this it wasn't something that I set out to write about. When I started writing this story, it was very much concept led about this woman going back to her hometown to experience a Christmas movie. But I wanted her to have been away for a long time because I thought, well, if she goes back there regularly and her family are there, that just doesn't necessarily feel so interesting to me. So I wanted her to have like been away for a long time, and that obviously led to the question, well, why has she been away for so
Hmm.
long? And also, why aren't her family there anymore? And that naturally led me, like, in the way my brain works, thanks, Hayley, down a dark path. And about the fact that there was probably something that had happened to
Mm.
her and her family in the past that had caused her family, as you say, to rupture and to essentially flee
Yeah.
their home. And, you know, this place had been like her parents had grown up in Scarnbrook. They'd gone to school together. You know, they were essentially childhood sweethearts. They had no desire to ever live anywhere else. But because of this like really tragic event that happened 20 years ago, they left. And her older brother also left. And then, you know, she had nowhere to go back to. She was at university when the event happened, and by the time she graduated, home didn't exist anymore.
Mm.
So she had no choice but to just go somewhere else, and she ended up moving to London. So yeah, there is a lot of kind of like sadness in the backstory to her family, and it was something again that I was really keen to dig into, rather than it just be this kind of throwaway side point that just kind of like was a handy piece of exposition to explain why she hadn't been back for so long.
Hmm.
That said, the relationship between Mally and her older brother Josh was something that really kind of came to life as I was writing. Josh was only ever intended to be kind of like this bit part side character, almost a bit of a kind of joke. You know, he's this Instagram influencer
Hmm.
who's like very like fitness and well-being focused, and he is like very driven, and you know he has his own range of eco merch that he kind of probably sells on his TikTok channel, though when I wrote this I didn't know anything about TikTok channels. So you know he is a very very different person to Mally, like completely different. But as I was writing him, I just kept asking myself the question, why is he behaving like this?
Mm.
Why is he so distant? Why is he so reluctant to kind of like have a relationship with his
Yeah.
sister? And that all kind of like unraveled during the writing experience, and it ended up, I think, probably becoming one of the like more emotional parts of the story
Yeah.
as they reconnect and sort of rediscover their relationship. Mally's parents are just like the loveliest of people, but they refuse to talk about what happened. They are like just too traumatized, and they do actually live in a lovely little cottage in the countryside. So there is like this kind of like element of cozy countryside
Yeah.
cottage that comes through, and with like a roaring fireplace and, you know, like an Arga in the kitchen. But yeah, Mally is just having to just figure everything out for herself. You know, she's trying hard to heal, and she thinks that she has healed, but it's very hard to heal when the people who experienced exactly the same loss that you did essentially like refuse to talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's why when she meets Tom, her high school crush, she is actually finally able to kind of start opening up about
Yeah.
what happened, and yeah, kind of like really start to actually process these feelings rather than just kind of pretend they don't exist and kind of fill her time with all of these predictable Hallmark movies. So yeah, writing her blossoming relationship with Tom was just, oh, so nice, so romantic.
I mean, we love Tom. I am a big fan of Tom. So we might as well get into Tom.
Yeah.
He is somebody that she really fancied in school, and it is the sort of the one that got away kind of trope, and I love those. I love those kinds of tropes because it's something that, you know, it's something you don't expect to ever come back to or to happen again. So what a treat when it does.
Yeah, I mean, like he is one of the first people she bumps into, in fact, when she returns to Scarnbrook, and she was, you know, she is completely sideswiped by
Hmm.
this because, you know, she's thought about him quite a lot over the years, but, you know, it's not something she would even contemplate. She
Hmm.
never even contemplated that she would ever see him again. So yeah, when he kind of just like appears in her life in like a frankly ridiculous fashion, and very quickly she is kind of like brought into the fold of the relationship between
Hmm.
Tom and his lovely mum Jo, who was just like just the nicest person to write. Mally starts to kind of like reevaluate everything she thought
Yeah.
she knew about like these people she went to school with, and like the facades that people maybe presented while they were at school, and the fact that they actually were facades. You know, she just
Mm.
thought that Tom was just this really cool, confident guy who used to kind of clown about and kind of like, you know, be a bit of a class joke, but like he was also really smart and really clever. And yeah, she just had this burning crush for him, but she was too shy to like tell anybody about it. And yeah, it turns out when she kind of like reconnects with him back in Scarnbrook that that wasn't who he was at all. You know, he
Yeah.
had this whole other kind of like inner life going on that she knew nothing about, and in fact that he didn't want anybody to know anything about
Mm.
back back in the day. So yeah, they both start opening up to each other, and yeah, just kind of like start seeing the past for what it really was rather than for what it kind of presented itself to be at the
Yeah.
time.
I find that really interesting though. You said a couple of things now about Tom and about Mally, and I find it really interesting that they both, without meaning to, kind of dismiss people in different ways, or
Yeah,
write people off or write relationships off with people. And I think it is a sort of response to the trauma they've experienced. It's that, their brain can't quite, what's happened to them is so all consuming that they can't really take on other people's stuff, and other things seem quite frivolous, like the way Mally perceives Josh. It's a brother's called Josh, isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Josh's kind of career as an influencer, and Josh's wife Saskia is also an influencer, and she's just kind of like, what even is that? It's so false. Like, what are we doing here? And I did wonder if that was something that you were interested in exploring, or if that's just something that's organically happened.
I mean, to be completely honest with you, most of this story organically
Yes.
happened. I didn't plot any of this story whatsoever. It all just kind of like I don't know, bloomed out of me as I was kind of like writing it. And I think, to be honest, the fact that it was conceived during lockdown like
Yeah.
inevitably had such a massive impact on the
Oh
kind
my
of like
gosh. Yeah.
themes and the topics, because for all of us in lockdown, like life just stopped.
Yeah.
And it radically changed as
Hmm.
well. And there was so much, and that was like a traumatic event for all of us. And I
Yeah.
think all of us at the time were in this trauma. We didn't even like realize the extent to which it was like impacting us at the
Mm.
time. And there was also like a load of collective grief as well, obviously like
Yeah.
real grief for people that had been lost as a result of the pandemic, but grief for everything that we'd all lost in terms of, you know, the kind of like connections that kept us sane essentially
Mm-hmm.
were just kind of all stripped away. So I think a lot of the writing experience of this story, even though it is a rom-com
Yeah.
with a happy ending, was born from that kind of sense of loss
Yeah.
that we were all experiencing at the time. And also, I don't know about you, but I found myself like reconnecting with people
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
during that time as well in really unexpected
Mm-hmm.
ways, and kind of like almost seeing underneath their skin
Yeah.
for the first time, and kind of like understanding who these people actually were and how they were doing and how they were processing what was happening in the world, and like made so many amazing kind of like deep connections
Mm-hmm.
during that period, which came as a complete surprise to me. And I personally definitely like re-evaluated the way I saw so many people, including myself, which is
Yeah.
probably like worth saying at that time. And I think that just came through in the way that I was just so driven to kind of like dive under the surface of these people and kind of like really like understand what was going on. Why were they behaving in these ways? What was driving them? What was preventing them from opening up? And yeah, it like I said before, it was just such a cathartic experience to kind of understand what makes people behave in certain ways. Like
Yeah.
Josh's behavior is like borderline obsessive and quite
Mm.
unhealthy. He's like very close to kind of falling down a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
conspiracy theories. But arguably, Mally's own behavior was just as unhealthy. She
Yeah.
was like, you know, hiding away in her living room, just watching endless cheesy Christmas movies. And don't get me wrong, I love these films, but there has to be like a balance, doesn't there, between kind of like burying yourself in
Mm-hmm.
sort of escapist stories
Yeah.
and confronting the truth of what is actually happening in your
Mm-hmm.
life and happening in the world. So yeah, she does come to understand that, you know, her own behavior probably isn't as healthy as it could be either, but in a very, very different way to
Yeah.
Josh's, and also in a very, very different way to her parents as well.
I mean, she does like to hide from reality, and I get
She
it.
does.
I get it.
Totally.
I get it. I do just want to mention as well because we have just been talking about the the heavier themes in the book,
Mm,
and I don't feel that I don't feel like this is a book that. I mean, I've described it as a comfort,
yeah.
as a blanket, a cozy blanket, and I very much felt that. But you do explore those themes of grief and loss. So I will just highlight that you have the content warnings on your website, don't you?
Yeah. So if you go to hayleyjdunlop.com/books, the content warnings are accessible from there. And it was just something I really wanted to be upfront about. Like, as
Yeah,
someone who has like experienced trauma myself, there are certain stories that I am not able to engage in,
yeah,
or there are certain themes that I just would like to know in advance
yeah.
that they are coming. Just the way my brain works, you know,
No, that's completely fair.
if
Yeah,
yeah if there's something in a story that is, yeah, it's like a trigger.
yeah.
I personally find it really helpful to know that it's coming, and you know, they're not spoilers or anything like that. It's just
No,
essentially like helps people to prepare emotionally for like what's on the page.
yeah,
And yeah, this story is very intentionally, like you say, a kind of comfort read,
yes.
but there is a lot of difficult themes explored. But
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest, the most enjoyable creative challenges for me writing it was kind of striking that balance
Mm,
between light and shade. And I do think there needs to be shade even in romantic fiction, potentially,
absolutely.
especially in romantic fiction. Like, you know, I've mentioned this book by Ella Risbridger, and like up front, she talks about like how she says something like, oh, just profound, like how love and death are the same shape,
Hmm.
and how, you know, those feelings exist so close to each other inside of us.
Yeah,
And so yeah, it seemed very natural for me to kind of like write about the sad elements alongside the like happiest possible things that could happen to a person.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah.
makes for a more real and authentic story, doesn't it? Because it's, it's believable, and we are all complex in our own way, and
Mhm. Multitudes.
nothing is perfect. So it is good to read about those various things. But I totally understand that, for some readers out there, these things can change from day to day in terms of what
Yeah.
you're ready to read that day. So yeah, I will include a link to your website in the show notes. Now, the person that you mentioned before, who is a lesser known character in the story, but is very much captures that essence of cozy and Christmas and all the joys of connection, is Tom's mum, who I really want to quickly mention, because it feels like their dynamic is a total contrast to where, I mean, I keep saying that Mally's family are very distant. There is that love there, and you can really feel
Mm.
it, but there is a contrast in terms of the closeness of those two families. Can we talk a little bit about Tom's mum? And yeah, I just love to hear where she came from.
Yeah, I just, like you say, I just felt that there was space in Mally's life for a very cozy matriarch,
Yes.
essentially. She, like you say, there is still so much love between Mally and her own
Hmm.
parents, but they are physically very distant from
Yeah.
her. And there is so much that's unsaid in their relationship. And to a certain extent, Mally has made peace with that.
Hmm.
So when she is welcomed into Tom's mum's home with open arms and is, from the outset just kind of like coddled, is that even a word? So she's
Sounds like it's a word.
she's wrapped in warmth and love and complete acceptance from the outset. Mally wasn't called Mally when she lived
Yeah.
in Scarnbrook 20 years ago. Her name's Amelia. She's kind of like subconsciously adopted this other name as she, tries to carve out a new life for herself. And, the fact that Tom's mum just completely accepts that that's what she's called now
Hmm.
without question, kind of sets the tone really for the fact that she is this safe space for
Yes,
Mally. It also helps that she also loves these cheesy Christmas
she
movies, and so
does.
they can connect over that straight away. But yeah, Joe's home is like a bungalow, like an ex-council estate bungalow. It is, it probably wouldn't have that much curb appeal, but she has adorned the house in Christmas decorations.
The
There's like,
Christmas tree.
oh, yeah, they decorate a Christmas tree together because obviously that's again one of the tropes that you find in a cheesy Christmas movie. But I did kind of add a little kind of British twist to it. And there are, yeah, Jo, she's a collector, so she loves collecting things and completing collections. And her home is very cluttered in a kind of like sort of pleasingly organized
Mm,
way. And Mally just immediately feels so at home there. And it was important for me, the Airbnb is like horrible.
yeah.
It's like the opposite of cozy.
Yes.
So it was really important for me to provide Mally with that actual cozy
Mm,
refuge that again isn't this picture perfect cottage, but it is that kind of gives her that warm feeling of home that maybe
yeah.
has been quite lacking from her life for so long. Also, special shout out to Chippy the sausage dog, right?
Yes.
Bit of a story. So when I got the cover for this book, the book wasn't originally called It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, by the way. That was a title change from my publisher. Smart move. It is the most Christmassy title ever. When they sent me the cover, I was like quite shocked because there was a dog on the front, and I was like, oh, but
Yeah.
there's no dog in the story. Um, Chippy was retrospectively added in because they really wanted a dog to be on the cover.
Oh.
So I wrote Chippy the sausage dog, who belongs to Joe, quite late on in the process, but it was almost like he was the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle. He's a sausage dog that very much identifies as a cat, and he just kind of like adds to that sort of like cozy sense of Joe's home. And straight away Chippy curls up on Mally's lap and makes her feel like she belongs there.
I mean, we love to see a cute pet in a book, and I think
Who
it's
knew?
especially
I had no
relevant.
idea. I was like, oh God, there needs to be an animal, apparently.
Oh no, I loved Chippy. So cute. I'm aware of time, and
Mm,
it's very clear that there is so much I could talk to you
yeah,
about. But we need to get in the Christmas
let's do it.
spirit, and this book is also a game. You've
It
got this
is.
Christmas movie bingo that you've created, which is so much fun. And this game is full of festive tropes. Could you tell the listeners a bit about that?
Yeah, so because Mally is such a nerd, but also mainly because I'm such a nerd, as I became increasingly obsessed with Hallmark Christmas movies in my actual real life, I developed this game of Hallmark Christmas movie bingo where you can kind of like tick off the tropes. But for the benefit of listeners, I am now holding it up because they're printed in the back of the book.
It's so good.
So as I was watching cheesy Christmas films, I could like play this game and like play with friends and stuff, like super nerdy. And then I realized I could actually transpose that very game into the story itself. Mally again has she plays this bingo game, but just by herself with like
Mm.
shots, like a solo drinking game, and she basically uses the bingo game as a framework from
Mm.
which to try and experience all of these tropes in real life when she goes back to Scarnbrook. So she's got these bingo cards, and like whenever something happens on her trip, she can kind of like tick off one of the tropes. So, for example, decorating a Christmas tree that we just talked about with Joe and Tom. Um, that is like a scene that we see in all of the Christmas movies, so she's able to tick it off. Each chapter heading in the book also starts with one of those tropes, so it kind of like gives the reader a sense for what's likely to happen within that chapter. But what I had a lot of very nerdy fun with was like making the trope happen in an unexpected way.
Mm.
um, so, for example, sometimes in a Christmas movie, you've got like some kind of weird Christmas themed contest, usually involving gingerbread and cookies, or ice sculptures. But in this story, for example, it's a Christmas themed pub quiz.
Yes.
So, there are kind of like twists on the tropes, like quite, some of them are kind of like sad twists, some of them are just very British twists, and some of them are
Mm.
just ridiculous twists. But I was, yeah, just really keen to kind of like bake this game within the pages of the book. There are actually some other secret tropes embedded in the story as well. So on the bingo cards at the back, um, every single trope that is listed on those cards is in the book somewhere. So if you enjoy a little bit of a game, you can play as you read and tick them off as you find them.
I love that. I showed my friend and I was like, we need to do this. Like we need to we need to watch some Christmas movies and
Yeah,
play this
absolutely.
game.
Do it. I mean, I watch Christmas movies year round, but right now you mentioned my Christmas movie watch along at the start. We're
Yeah.
5 days in as we're recording this into the 2025 cheesy Christmas movie watch along, where I choose 24 films
Oh my
to
gosh.
watch every day between now and Christmas Eve. And it's something I've been doing, yeah, ever since lockdown,
Oh
basically.
my
So this is
gosh.
the fifth year of doing it, and it is just the most unhinged piece of fun ever. I love it.
Do you have any favorites in terms of films?
Yes, and the favorites are kind of split between films that are like genuinely really good and really heartwarming, and
Yes.
also films that are just so terrible that they are the
Oh,
best
we
book
love some of
experience.
those.
100%. I mean, the one we watched yesterday, for example, on the watch along, is this like sapphic Christmas movie called Merry and Gay. I
Right.
love like try honestly though, finding diverse Christmas movies is a mission, and
Yeah.
it's a mission that I take on every year because it's really important. But there definitely needs to be like more
More. Yeah.
representation in Christmas movies, 100%. But this is a sapphic Christmas movie in which a Broadway star returns to her hometown and reconnects with her childhood best friend. The film it's unhinged, it's wild. It turns into a musical at one point, Hannah.
Oh
Like no
my
one's
God.
expecting it.
It's like when Grey's
um,
Anatomy did the musical
So
episode.
that's
Nobody
Merry
was
and
ready.
Gay. That's on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend that if you just want to watch something like absolutely ridiculous, but very, very funny at the same time.
Amazing.
But my favorite ever Christmas movie is one called Ghosting, the Spirit of Christmas.
Oh, I don't think I've
And
heard of this.
yeah, no one's heard of it. It's like buried within the depths of the Disney Plus algorithm. I think it might be on Netflix in certain territories, but I'm not sure it is in the UK. And it tells the story of, it's extremely Christmassy. It's also like really kind of like great on diversity and representation, which is like really important. It tells a story of a man and a woman who go on a date in the run up to Christmas. And on her way home from this date, the woman is in a car accident and dies. But he believes that she's ghosted him because obviously, like, he never hears from her again.
Oh my gosh.
She comes back as a ghost, and for some inexplicable reason, but a reason that you just accept because it works so well, he can see her, and
Right.
so can her best friend. And it is just such a lovely story of like love and friendship and like loss and yeah, kind of like following your dreams, ambition. And the performances are amazing. And I just want everybody in the world to watch this film because it's so good. It's called, yeah, Ghosting, the Spirit of Christmas, and it's on Disney Plus.
Oh my God, I love the sound of that. I'm definitely gonna
Yeah,
have to.
I cried. I absolutely bawled my eyes out. I was not expecting to. I was putting together like the schedule for the watch along a couple of years ago, stumbled across this film, whacked it on, and yeah, kind of emotional devastation ensued, but in the best possible way.
We love
It's
that. We
very
love a
nice.
bit of emotional devastation.
Yeah.
There is an excellent film that I watched a few years ago that's not Hallmark or Hallmark adjacent, but is it called Jingle All the Way? Is that what it's called?
Yes, yeah, that's a
The
Netflix film.
is it the
Single, is it Single All the Way?
Single All the Way, not Jingle All the Way?
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And it's the gay rom-com, and is it got Jennifer Coolidge in, or have I just completely made that up?
I mean, it feels like it should have Jennifer Coolidge
I
in it.
definitely am convinced it's got Jennifer Coolidge in. I'd
Yeah.
love if I've just
It's
inserted.
amazing.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that is an excellent Christmas film.
that's an excellent Christmas film. And you know what? The best one I've watched this year so far on Netflix is Jingle Bell Heist, which
I've not
is
watched that yet. It's
it
got
is
Hayley
so
from Sex Education in, hasn't it?
yeah,
Yes.
and it is so British, and it is like it's got a very kind of like unexpected aesthetic to it as well. It's almost
Yes.
kind of like Wes Anderson-y.
Really?
Yeah. Like they've really dialed up the kind of aesthetic of like this fictional department store that she works in, and like there's just this kind of color palette that is like present throughout. And I just it was really like it was better than it needed to be. Put it that
Oh my
way.
God, I love that. There
So I
seems to
would highly
be
recommend that.
there's a bit of a trend with the sex education stars doing Christmas films because
Right.
is it Asa Butterfield? Is that how you say his
Yeah,
name?
he did Your Christmas or Mine,
I
and then
loved that, and I know it wasn't the best, but I
oh
really
no, that was
enjoyed
our
it.
highlight of the watch along that year.
It's
We
so
loved it.
good.
Yeah, really good. I would say the sequel wasn't as good.
No, it wasn't, but I did enjoy it. This is the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean,
Justice for bad films.
yes, 100%. And I'll tell you what I find frustrating is when like news outlets like The Guardian, they review these films and they give them like 2 stars and they're like,
But it's
oh,
not made for you.
just stop, just stop reviewing these films
Yeah.
alongside Oscar contenders, please. That's not that's not what these films are trying to achieve. And
No.
the films are trying to just give people predictable comfort, and
Exactly.
which is exactly ultimately the feeling that I wanted the book to give people as well. Romantic fiction always has a happy ending.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, in the world the way it is right now, we could all do
We
with
need some of that.
yeah, we need some comfort and joy and just kind of like safety and predictability. Like
Yeah.
everything is just so unpredictable.
Mm.
And yeah, these stories just give us that kind of like solid feeling that we need every once in a while, I think.
Yeah. We all need that festive boost. Although I did get very excited in the book when you wrote using the heel of my hand to absorb the tears that had leaked from my eyes, like Emma Thompson in the best scene of Love Actually. Oh my God, that scene!
Yeah, oh my God, like honestly,
Darlings!
yes. Oh, it gets me every single time.
She is magic in that film.
Yes,
That was an Oscar-winning
she carries it.
performance.
She carries it.
She's so good.
She's also in another Christmas film called Last Christmas, which is another Netflix one.
Yes.
Which is again surprisingly good.
Yes.
People have got mixed feelings on it, but I actually really love that film. I think London never looked more Christmassy.
Honestly, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
There's so many good films that I could talk to you about, but we are at time, which is really sad. I do like to finish by asking for a recommendation. Have you got anything left in you?
Oh my gosh, well, kind of like placing Christmas aside for a moment, the best book I read this year was this amazing, I can't remember if you had it on the podcast, was this amazing book called Send Flowers by Emily Buchanan.
Yes, such a banger.
Oh my goodness me. Like as soon as I heard the premise for the story, I was like on board, you know, the houseplant that is her reincarnated boyfriend. But what I wasn't expecting was for it to be such a like profound piece of climate fiction. Which is just one of my favorite, like obviously it's an emerging genre. It's a genre I would love to kind of write in the future. And I just think she did such a phenomenal job of exploring such a complex topic, and it gave me so much hope, that story. And like obviously it's not a piece of romantic fiction, although there are like elements of a love story in it. But what she achieved, I think, in that story just blew my mind, and we need more stories like that.
Absolutely. She's incredible, and that book is incredible and so unexpected, and you think it's going to be this really quirky read about this houseplant, and it is very much that, but then there's also so much more to it, and it's, you know, it's similar values to your book. You know, there's a lot of community, you know, the importance of community, the importance of finding connection and keeping hope in dark times. So there's a lot of crossover there.
Oh well, that's the best possible compliment, so thank you.
No worries at all. And you do have another one coming next year for us to look forward to.
Yeah, it's another festive rom-com. This one isn't it's largely set in New York. That's probably as much as I can say about it at the moment.
I'm sold already. Say nothing more.
Another very unconventional protagonist as well, which I just love writing. So yeah, that comes out next August. So yes, I will be talking a lot about that in the coming months.
Oh my goodness. Well, we can't wait for more festive goodness from you. And for the listeners, if you want to keep up with Hayley's watch along, like I said earlier, I will be popping a link to Hayley's Instagram in the show notes. For the content warnings we mentioned earlier, I'll be linking Hayley's website. And of course, to get yourselves a copy of It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, if you haven't already read it, I'll be popping links in the show notes to get yourselves a copy of that. Please do, and please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And lastly, thank you so much, Hayley, for coming on A Pair of Bookends and being our December book club pick.
Thank you so much for picking my book. This has been an absolute pleasure, absolute joy sharing my geekery about all things Christmas movies. So thank you for having me.
Oh, we love it. And for the listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on Twitter and TikTok, or for more content over on Patreon, links in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye and Merry Christmas.